Yeah, we're here at the Qatar Embassy, and we're here to stand in solidarity with our family, our friends, and other members of the LGBTIQ plus community out there. We are here to support them, and we're here to raise an awareness, to shine a light on what's happening in Qatar, the persecutions, the homophobia, the abuses, the imprisonment, and the death of our dear friends and family, and all the members of the LGBTI plus Q community. The women who are facing ill treatment in the communities. But not only that, but we are standing in solidarity with everyone who is against the FIFA, them taking the World Cup to Qatar, a very homophobic country, where being part of the LGBTIQ plus community is punishable by death, and we are against it as an organization, as LGBTI plus Q people.
No freedom, no football. No freedom, no football.
And we know of the abuses of the migrant workers in Qatar, and that is why we are here to emphasize, to let the world know that in spite of the fact that the World Cup could not be prevented from taking place in Qatar, we will let the whole world know that we are against Qatar hosting the World Cup. So shame on Qatar!
Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA!
Do you know, is it on? It's on. It's so important that people take a stand. I'm so pleased that the top EU officials are boycotting. So why are our officials going? Huh?
Yeah! Shame!
Shame on FIFA!
Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar!
There's so much money being spent on this corrupt football festival. Why are people like David Beckham and others earning if they were giving that money to the support of LGBT communities across the region? People ask me whether we should be watching the football. Now, obviously, I love England, I love Wales, I want to be cheering them on. But I think the important thing is to shine a spotlight onto all the people who are suffering and will continue to suffer after the game. So please, everyone, find a charity you can support. Find the stories. You just need to Google LGBT Qatar and push them on social media. We must make sure that this isn't just a 2-week flash in the pan, but that we continue to focus the spotlight. You know, the local LGBT community are really concerned what's going to happen after the game. Will they face a big backlash? And the only protection they have is us continuing to push and highlight their causes. That's what officials should be doing. So I look out and I salute Harry Kane for wearing a One Love armband. I hope that when he speaks after the game with Iran, he too will say things that our own government refused to say. I salute the English football team for wearing what they can, rainbow laces. The US football team for wearing insignias on their shirts. That's right, give them a clap.
They should be boycotting! They should be boycotting!
Well, it's difficult to boycott, isn't it? But you can use the time to highlight, and we need more people to highlight. So thank you for coming today, but most of all, thank you to Peter. Peter is one of the bravest men I know. If it wasn't for Peter, we wouldn't be here, and the world wouldn't be focusing on the LGBT abuses. We need more people like Peter. So if you have that fire in your belly, don't be scared to stand up and speak out. And join groups that can help you amplify your voice. Thank you. Shame on FIFA!
Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar! Shame on FIFA! Shame on Qatar!
And shame on David Beckham!
Yes! 150 million quid wants to do!
Shame on Beckham!
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about people making a lifestyle choice, and being LGBT plus is not a choice. It is just who you are. When did a straight person ever look in the mirror when they're growing up and decide to be straight? Well, I can tell you for nothing, no gay person ever wished to be gay or to be lesbian or bisexual. That's just who they are, and we want to compete against the ignorance of some people around the world who somehow feel that we're trying to impose on people. We're not an ideology, we're not political, we're human beings who have every right to exist.
And so this is a massive human rights issue that you're fighting for versus trying to change law or religion in a country. It's on a human scale.
Oh, definitely. We as a group, we respect people on the basis of their gender identity, their sexuality, their ethnicity and their religion. We don't discriminate. We are totally inclusive and diverse. And respect should not be demanded. And in this case, it feels like that respect is being demanded. It's like the old adage of like, I'm not racist, but. That's how it comes across to LGBT plus people. That's how we feel when the Qataris roll out this false welcome mat. We're not welcome. They're quite glad that we're not going. I've seen some pretty abusive comments from well-educated Qataris on a Bloomberg tweet, basically along the lines of, for example, saying, oh, at least the air won't smell like sewage now that LGBT plus people are going to boycott the World Cup. How am I supposed to feel about a comment like that? You know, as a decent human being myself who's very respectful of all people, that I find it pretty offensive, to be honest.
I think you have a right.
We also want to send the message to FIFA. Stop colluding with a sexist, homophobic and racist police state. And FIFA, stop colluding with discrimination. FIFA promised there would be no discrimination permitted at this World Cup. Yet, we know that 7 of the competing nations, including Qatar, have a total criminalization of homosexuality. We also know that if a star footballer from any of these 7 countries came out or was exposed as gay, he would be more likely to be jailed than selected to play in his national team. That's discrimination. It's against FIFA's rules, but FIFA is allowing it to happen. It's the same with migrant workers' rights. It's true there have been some improvements, but nowhere near enough. 6,500 migrant workers, mainly from South Asia, have died since 2010 when Qatar was given the World Cup. Some of the families, indeed many of the families, are still waiting for compensation. Even today, migrant workers complain of unpaid wages, often being forced to live in overcrowded slum hostels and being refused permission to change jobs in order to escape abusive employers. So clearly, the improvement in migrant workers' rights has barely scratched the surface. And we stand in solidarity and in remembrance of all those migrant workers who have died building the stadiums, the hotels, the roads, and the other infrastructure. We stand in solidarity with them, we remember them. The Qatar regime has turned its back on them. FIFA has turned its back on them. Shame on FIFA, shame on Qatar.
Shame on FIFA!
Shame on Qatar. Shame on FIFA. Shame on Qatar. We must also remember the plight of women in Qatar. They are effectively the property of men. A Qatari woman requires permission from a male guardian in order to marry, get certain jobs, study, and travel abroad. When it comes to inheritance, a Qatari daughter is only worth half the value of a Qatari son. For men in Qatar, divorce is easy. For women in Qatar, it's very difficult. In child custody cases, nearly always custody is given legally to the father. Indeed, in Qatar law, a father always has legal custody, even if he's unworthy and unsuitable. Even if the mother is the best place for the child, the father has legal custody in Qatar law. This is pure sexism and patriarchy. It's unacceptable in the 21st century. We've all heard the statements from the FIFA boss today. The outrageous statements where he has spoken out, effectively parroting the PR of the Qatari dictatorship.
How much was he paid?
It's absolutely true that the West has done bad things, but that is no excuse for the human rights abuses perpetrated by Qatar today. FIFA has formed. In 2018, it allowed the World Cup to go ahead in another dictatorship, that of Russia. Despite the fact that Russia had illegally invaded and annexed Crimea, and despite the mass arrests, torture, and even murder of LGBT plus people in Chechnya. So FIFA has formed, it backs tyranny. Backing tyranny is not compatible with its own statutes. On top of that, we know that 16 of 22 executive members, past executive members of FIFA, have been under investigation on allegations of corruption.
Hello, I'm Larry. We are in the front of the Qatari embassy in Mayfair, London. We are here to let the world know about the atrocities that is being committed by the Qatari government against the LGBTI community and migrants in Qatar. You have to recall that in 2010, FIFA nominated Qatar to host the World Cup in 2022. We all know the charade that went with that. In spite of the abuse of human rights in Qatar, FIFA chose the Qatari government to host the FIFA World Cup. And in Qatar, the LGBT community are oppressed. You are likely to face between 4 and 7 years in jail if you caught, and under the Sharia law, it can even be death. And in spite of that, the migrant workers in Qatar, between 2010 and now, over 6,000 migrant workers have died. Yet, the world turned a blind eye. This morning, the FIFA president spoke at the opening ceremony, and he was unapologetic about choosing Qatar to host the World Cup, right? He spoke, the FIFA president spoke about being African, Asian, being gay, but we know it was all a lie. And shame on FIFA, shame on the Qatari government. In Qatar, the women rights are undermined. And we are here this afternoon to let the world know that women right is human rights, and LGBT right is human rights. Immigrant right is human rights. That is why we are here today, and we hope that our message is loud and clear, and the whole world will support the people and people of Qatar and the LGBT community. Thank you very much.
Which groups are here?
Art and Proud African LGBTI. That's the group.